folks, Rob MaximumRD. I hope I'm well in frame here. This is a response to NovaBug, his Friday Foursome number 3, Gaming Regrets. Now, please, if you have an opinion on this, if you have a response, you're welcome to leave it in my comments, of course. I always love reading them. But consider going to NovaBug's channel. There's a link in the description to his original video. He's doing this. He does these foursomes here for response and just having fun with the community. Do the response to his original video. If you're picked and he likes your response, it could show up on his Facebook channel and also in a future edition of the Friday Foursome. So respond to his video, please. Details are in the description. So hi, NovaBug. This is my response to your Friday Foursome number 3, Gaming Regrets. Now, I didn't know about this initially. I wasn't initially subscribed to NovaBug. I did subscribe and I did like his Facebook page. I was actually inspired, if I may use that word, by one Mark Vahir, aka Lactobacillus Prime, as you may know him. Because of one of his regrets, I noticed, and you may have had a hint in the thumbnail that I included in this video, we both share this regret wholeheartedly, and that is dropping a box. No, that is this right here, the game box. The game box. Oh my goodness, made in China. Some interesting claims on the box and the description. And before I even get into it, please let me say, I take full responsibility for all my regrets in life and connected to gaming. I take full responsibility. I'm a sucker for these things, as Mark pointed out. Although he says, I think he mentioned he has actually bought this twice. I don't get. But anyways, there's no excuse for that, Mark, buying this twice. But yeah, I regret buying it at all. It's poor emulation. You're better off with emulators on your, an Android device. Me, I do love my cheap JXD import gaming devices, and they blow this away, literally. This was a couple years back now, and again, I'm a sucker for gadgets and tinkering. I had hoped that the firmware would have been upgraded, maybe expanding its capabilities, so on and so forth. And I was partly right. Actually, doing a lot of research and checking online, I did find a blog, and someone did actually find a way to through USB, hook it up to your PC and flash the firmware to a newer one, which would allow you to actually upgrade the games that are included on it. But yay, mine is such an early revision that it cannot utilize this hack or upgraded firmware. So I'm literally stuck with the games that are included with it. And again, that's not a bad thing for what it is and for the price you paid. I guess if you were to throw it on a TV and let a little kid play with it, he probably wouldn't complain too much. Or maybe he would. I don't know. Today's generation is so wired in with what we have today. But it's, yeah, not the greatest emulation. Let's see here. Configuration. A lot of the claims here. 128 megabyte video RAM shared with main memory. AV cable, PAL NTSC supported. Yeah, I suppose. What was really weird is the gamepad that is included seems to be USB, and I think, well, even maybe USB 1.1 or something. I can plug this PlayStation-looking controller into my PC. Well, it's not a USB. It fits the USB plug on my PC. But when you break it down technically, it is not a USB port. It is actually this weird fake USB plug that works only with this device, with this console. So again, considering how cheap it was and the claims that it made, that's fine, not too disappointing. I thought I'll only just use the controller with this actual console. But yeah, still, that overall poor quality. It's loud, it's got a fan. It actually uses a fan, which I find kind of funny, because if you rip this sucker open and look inside of it, it's got like the tiniest little board PCB inside. And I think there was like a weight or something inside to actually make it feel like it's heavier than it actually is. So very poor quality, poor construction. As much as I'm a sucker for these kind of consoles and gadgets, I do regret buying this one. Not a good buy. The Game Box. Did I even mention that from the beginning? Yeah. Game Box, multiplayer game, multi-platform supported with cool game systems. Yeah, easy play with Game Box system network, unnecessary. Yeah, simple setting, one word they've used here. Only finger touch. What are they talking about? It's not like touchscreen, it's a controller. So yeah, I mean, it's a joke. I'll do a more in-depth look at this and go through all of its nuances and features and let you see for yourself. Regret that I share with Mark Vahir, Lactobacillus prime. Okay, so regret number 2. Clones in general. Hyperkin. Yeah, okay, first of all, you may look back at my original unboxings and looks at a couple Hyperkin systems. The FC Mobile 2, I think it was. It plays original NES 8-bit cartridges and games. That was one. And the Hyperkin Retron 3. Now, keep in mind, I don't have a Retron 5, the current one that utilizes emulation and has all these features. It was recently hacked, apparently. Some people have found ways to run their own emulators on it, so on and so forth. But that's a whole other area. I don't have one. I won't be getting one in the future. My deal is the Retron 3, which again was one of these multi-systems. I think it played the Genesis, Super Nintendo, and 8-bit Nintendo. Does pretty good for the most part. Again, you will see my original review was pretty favorable on it. But as time has gone on, and I really had more hands-on experience with it and compared it to the original systems, which, that's not something you should do anyways. If you want the original systems, go on eBay or wherever you have to and scrounge up an original system, buy it. It'll probably do you better than any of these Hyperkin clones. So I take full responsibility once again for that. But yeah, I had a fairly favorable review for these items. The FC Mobile 2, I think, and the Hyperkin 3 clone, Retron 3. And just, I regret them now. If I could go back, I would not have purchased those Hyperkin items. I don't like clones in general. Now that said, I do like my Retrobit Super Retro Trio. That is my most recent clone. It has good picture, good sound, better compatibility than the Retron 3 by Hyperkin. And I do not regret buying that. That's a good clone. But my Hyperkin clones, as I said, for the FC Mobile 2 for NES and the Retron 3, they are so cheap, they're so flimsy. The portable FC Mobile 2, it's like you have the 8-bit Nintendo cartridge in there and it plays and the sound is really loud, and compatibility from what I've played on it is pretty good overall. But if you even breathe on it too hard, the cartridge shifts and the game glitches out. So not good, not well designed. And it does have somewhat of a cheap and flimsy feel. So yeah, I wouldn't have bought that particular clone. And the Retron 3, Very flimsy indeed. Again, if you open up, there's the shell. There's practically nothing to it. Maybe I'll delve more into detail with these in the future and show it to you personally. But they're so flimsily constructed, so cheaply produced. You know, there's that thinking that yeah, they're cheaper made. They maybe use the cheapest parts possible to give you a lower price and all this. And some people, in some people's mentality or their way of thinking is, well, at least it's new. It's brand new. Well, yeah, it's brand new. But if I fear pulling out a cartridge too quickly or inserting a cartridge too, you know, too hard or something, then what good is this new product? It's so poorly constructed. Like, I agree with the fact that our original consoles, our original Super Nintendo, 8-bit Nintendo especially, Sega Genesis, what have you, they're getting older. They're wearing out. They're falling apart. But, I mean, it's pretty bad when I still feel that my original Sega Genesis, or at least the Sega Genesis that I bought used, and 8-bit Nintendo and Super Nintendo, these used systems that are, you know, whatever, 10, 20 and more years old, I just feel that they're more solid and more durable than these modern clone systems. And, of course, being the original system, they're much more compatible. Obviously, they're 100% compatible, and they're going to give you the best quality output, no graphical glitches, best sound reproduction, everything, so on and so forth. Because these modern clones are basically emulation in hardware, and not the best, especially usually on the 8-bit Nintendo side. They have a lot of problems. The Sega Genesis, for example, again, the AtGames handhelds, which I haven't gotten any of those, but man, the sound reproduction on those suck. They suck. I'm sorry. You know, I know a lot of casual game players and maybe people who didn't grow up with these systems and have a large collection, you know, they don't mind it too much. But for any of you who really are a Sega Genesis fan, those AtGame handhelds and home consoles are crap. They just sound horrid. So yeah, modern clones in general, I have a big problem with. And my regret was buying the Famicom FC Mobile 2 by Hyperkin and the Retron 3 by Hyperkin. So yeah, that's another regret. Regret number 3, selling off any and all Amiga-related items. I won't go into a long thing about this. Hard time in my life. I didn't have a lot of options. Needed to pay bills, you know, do what I have to do, and sold off all my Amiga stuff. And, you know, since then, I have actually had a CD32, and I did sell that. I didn't want to, but the problem is the original CD32 controllers are crap. They're bad. They're really bad. And I had one of those with it. And then anything that's better, like the third-party Competition Pro, is a really good pad. But man, you can never find one at a good price. And when I say that, please keep in mind, I am saying I live in Canada. If I find a deal in the U.S. or, heaven forbid, the U.K., and I don't mean that in a bad way, I'm just saying when you factor in shipping, okay, to get here to Canada, and then I'm hit with border charges and import charges and whatever else Canada border wants to impose on it, there's no more deal to be had. And in fact, you're paying ridiculous prices. So that's why I don't have any Amiga items today. When I rarely do locate a good piece of Amiga hardware in the US or the UK, it's just not worth it once you factor in shipping and border charges and tariffs and whatever you want to call it. Anyways, it always costs me a lot. A lot of times to get something from the UK or the US, it costs me more than the item, more than what I paid for the item, just to get it across the damn border. And I refuse to do that. So, yeah, that is kind of my thing. Like, I take responsibility for that once again. But it's just a personal thing. You have to draw the line somewhere, right? So I don't pay those ridiculous charges, and therefore I can't get my hands on that equipment again. So that's why I regret selling them in the first place. I had an original Amiga 500. I had a 1200 with a Blizzard 030 accelerator. That thing was a beauty. But again, my biggest regret, selling those items when I desperately needed the money, and I had to sell basically to, you know, continue. So to this day I have no Amiga related items, and I guess, you know, I try not to regret things, because sometimes you do what you have to do, and I'm sure I racked my brain and tried to find some alternative to getting rid of those Amiga items, and there was none. So I did what I have to do. So I don't regret it in that aspect, but I still regret the fact that I had to do it, and I don't have anything Amiga related today, save for I think maybe some floppy disks, some disk games, and I think maybe possibly a mouse that Gaming Night sent me quite a while ago, which is great, cool. Hopefully one day I'll be able to utilize them on actual hardware. That said, thank God for emulation. I use Amiga forever, and I still run Amiga games and Amiga programs and so on and so forth. So I can still experience some of that nostalgia and enjoyment that I got out of the Amiga hardware. So my biggest regret, as a matter of fact, getting rid of Amiga hardware. Lastly, number 4. The number 4 regret that I have is poor focus on my collection. I'm stuck in this situation today with funds dwindling, savings running out. And excuse me, I have some sinus problems if you hear some odd noises. But anyways, and a long time ago, as I started my collecting, like I started it basically back in 2008. That was my first video for the ColecoVision Super Action controllers, and I still have those, by the way. I don't regret that. But when I say poor focus on my collection, the way I went about it was, as a lot of you have done, and I know this, the thought always being, I'll get the items I want, I'll get the hardware I want, I'll get the platforms I want by buying big lots. Lots and wholesale bundles, etc. Excuse me, with the thought of getting rid of the extras or the unwanted items through buying, selling, and trading. And my regret there is, when I say poor focus of my collection, is I didn't do that. And now I ended up instead just buying and buying and buying and collecting and first world friggin' problems. Yes, I know. But it left me with tons of stuff, tons of hardware, accessories, so on and so forth. But I haven't been very good at the whole trading and selling part. So yeah, I quickly, well, maybe not quickly, it took years, ran out of room, ran out of space, ran out of storage, and now I'm stuck at a point where I'm trying to get through my collection and downsize and sensibly get rid of the unwanted or less wanted items, I should say, not unwanted, but less wanted items, in order to optimize my collection and focus on the things that I really want. Whereas looking back on it now, if I could have a do-over, I would have done it a lot differently. I'm basically stuck with all this stuff that I'm not very good at selling or trading or getting rid of, because, yeah, once again, when you factor in shipping, and I don't want to be, the last thing I want is to be one of those guys who overprices their items or expects too much for their items. It would be nice to get at least back what one paid originally for their items. But in order to do that, you know, I have to factor in the shipping that I might have to pay to send it out, etc. and so forth. You know, I don't have to get into all of this. You all relate and you understand what I'm talking about. I'm sure most of you do. I guess what I regret and what I'm trying to get to the point of here is, if I could have a do-over and did it all again, I would only buy exactly what I want. Okay, I wouldn't buy those large lots. I wouldn't buy all those extra accessories that came with certain items that I wanted. I would have only bought what I distinctly wanted in the first place. This would have had the effect of not taking up so much space, because I'd only have the items I want, and I wouldn't be stuck now in this position where I need to get rid of so many things, and I'm just not very good at doing that. So that is also a pretty big regret, poor focus of my collection. And I'll say to any of you just starting out now, unless you're really, really sure that you're going to be good at selling and trading off the items that you don't want, to put back into the items and to strengthen the collections that you do want to pursue and keep, don't do that. Just buy what you want. Okay. Yeah, so that's it. That's my 4 regrets. Clones in general, except the ones that I enjoy. This damn game box piece of crap. Selling off all the Amiga stuff, and the poor focus on my collection. So there you have it. Rob, MaximumRD, wrapping it up finally. Sorry I was rambling on, and I don't know why. What possibly made me just blab and blab and blab, I have no idea. But there you have it. Those are my 4 gaming regrets. Do your response to NovaBug once again. Link in the description. Drop by, say hi, tell them MaximumRD sent you, and I'm a little buzzed, so what? Bye.